In 1665, London was gripped by the Great Plague. Streets were empty, markets abandoned, and the cries of the sick echoed through the foggy alleys. Among the few brave or desperate figures walking those streets were the plague doctors. One doctor, Dr. Elias Thorne, was known for his strange methods. While others treated the sick cautiously, he claimed he could see the disease before it struck. He whispered that the plague was alive and hunting souls. Patients reported bizarre occurrences when he entered their rooms. Shadows stretched unnaturally, whispers of voices that weren't there, and the chilling feeling of being watched. Those who resisted his treatment claimed the doctor's mask, his beaked mask stuffed with herbs, moved on its own, almost like it had a life of its own. Then one night, a young woman named Mary was brought to Dr. Thorne's home. She had been infected but was still conscious. She later described what happened next. In the flickering lamplight, Dr. Thorne's face was pale, his eyes wide and glistening. He moved with an eerie silence, his black robe billowing around him like a phantom. As he approached her bed, the air grew heavy, as if the very room was holding its breath. His gloved hand, cold as ice, touched her forehead, and in that instant she felt the essence of the plague, a consuming darkness slithering into her bones. His voice, a low, raspy whisper, broke the silence. "The plague, it is here, child. I can feel it clawing at your life force." Fear tightened its grip around her heart. Was he truly able to see the sickness within her, to peer into the abyss where darkness threatened to consume her soul? She struggled to speak, her throat dry as ash. "Can you help me?" The question escaped as a mere wisp of sound. Dr. Thorne leaned closer, his face now inches from hers, his gaze boring into her with an intensity that made her shiver. "I can stop it," he said, "but I need your help." Confusion clouded her mind. "What do you mean?" His lips curled into a sad smile, revealing teeth that seemed a bit too sharp, a bit too long. "There is a place," he began, his voice dropping to an even lower register. "A place beneath my house where I keep it at bay. But it grows stronger each day, more impatient. It hungers for souls." She felt a sudden surge of defiance. "What are you talking about? What hunger? What souls?" He recoiled slightly, as if her words had stung him. For a moment, his eyes lost their focus, staring blankly into the void. Then, as if shaken from a trance, he regained his composure. "You must trust me, Mary," he said, his voice regaining its smoothness. "If I am to save you, you must do as I ask." Before she could respond, he rose abruptly, his shadow looming over her like a shroud. "I need you to bring me offerings, souls, to appease the hunger." His words echoed ominously in the small room, leaving her in a state of suspended terror. Dr. Thorne led her down a dark and narrow staircase, each step creaking ominously beneath her weight. At the bottom, a heavy wooden door blocked their path, adorned with strange, unsettling symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the dim light. He placed a hand on the door, and as he did, the air grew frigid, as if a blast of icy wind had suddenly swept through the room. He pushed the door open, revealing a chamber that seemed to exist outside the realm of time and space. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay and the lingering echoes of despair. A single lantern flickered in the far corner, casting grotesque shadows that danced and swayed as if animated by unseen spirits. The flickering light revealed rows upon rows of glass jars filled with murky liquids and strange, shriveled organs. Each jar was meticulously labeled with spidery handwriting that sent shivers down her spine. As her eyes adjusted to the gloom, she noticed a full-length mirror set into the wall. But it was not the mirror itself that held her gaze, but rather the figure that stood before it, a twisted mockery of herself. In the reflection, she saw the plague doctor, his face obscured by the customary beak mask. But it was the movements that sent a fresh wave of terror coursing through her veins. The doctor in the mirror turned, and in that instant, Mary gasped. The movement was fluid, almost liquid-like, and it was mirrored perfectly in the reflection. Yet it was clear that the figure was not merely mimicking her movements. It was acting on its own volition, its head swiveling at an unnatural angle. Dr. Thorne, sensing her gaze, turned back to the mirror and beckoned to her with a finger. Hesitantly, she moved towards him and the mirror, each step echoing in the vast emptiness of the chamber. As she drew closer, the stench of decay intensified, making her stomach churn. The doctor gestured again, this time urging her to touch the glass. With trembling fingers, she pressed her palm against the cold surface, and as she did, a jolt of energy surged through her, as if the mirror itself were alive. In a voice devoid of warmth or humanity, the plague doctor in the mirror spoke, his words echoing eerily in the chamber. "This is the hunger. This is what you must feed." Suddenly, the room plunged into darkness. The lantern extinguished, plunging them into an abyss of pitch-black nothingness. Panic surged through Mary, her heart pounding against her ribs like a trapped bird. The air grew thick and suffocating, making it hard to breathe. Then, just as abruptly as it began, the darkness lifted. The lantern flickered back to life, casting its grotesque glow once more. But something was different now. The plague doctor stood before the mirror, his back to Mary, his shoulders slumped as if in defeat. The figure in the mirror was gone. With a newfound sense of urgency, Dr. Thorne turned from the mirror, his face illuminated by the flickering lantern light. His eyes, usually gleaming with manic energy, were now dull and lifeless, devoid of the usual spark. "It is too late," he whispered, his voice heavy with despair. "It has taken root in me. There is no saving me now." And then he did something that made her blood run cold. He reached up and slowly removed his mask. Beneath it, his face was not that of an emaciated old man, but a horrifying visage of decay and corruption, a grotesque parody of human features. "Why?" She managed to gasp out, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Why are you doing this?" He looked at her then, his eyes burning with a terrible light. "Because," he rasped, his voice like the grinding of bones. "The plague is not a sickness, but a living thing. It feeds on fear, and I have made a pact with it, given it my service in exchange for my soul. I could end it, crush it, but the cost is too great. And so I walk between worlds, a servant of the darkness, forever damned." Before she could respond, he placed the mask back on his face, sealing away his tormented soul from view. Then he turned away, his hunched form disappearing into the shadows. In the days that followed, Dr. Thorne vanished, leaving behind only rumors and unease. His home was found abandoned, the hidden chamber sealed, and the mirror shattered. But some say his spirit lingers still, forever bound to the plague he serves. They say the plague never truly ended. It simply found a new form, and somewhere in the dark alleys of London, Dr. Thorne still walks, feeding the fear that sustains him. Every few years, during outbreaks of disease or panic, witnesses claim to see the plague doctor again, whispering names and pointing toward the shadows. So if you hear a knock at the door in the dead of night, and when you open it you find no one there, and if you see a figure in a beaked mask standing silently in the fog, don't turn away, don't try to escape. Just listen closely to what he has to say, for it might be your last chance to save yourself and those you love from the horrors of the plague. Some historians dismiss the stories as superstition, the ramblings of an overactive imagination. But in the darkest corners of London, the legend persists. They say the plague never truly ended. It simply found a new form. And somewhere in the heart of the city, Dr. Thorne still walks. Forever bound to the curse he embraced, forever seeking new souls to feed the endless hunger.